Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, it's time for us to get started and go ahead and get some inspiration, some motivation, something that we can use when our next challenge comes in life that we can use to help get through this. Just grab one good golden nugget. I tell you what, to be greedy today, let's grab 3 golden nuggets today. Because what are we going to do? We're going to share them. We're going to pay it forward, right? Don't take it to the grave with you. All right? You've done enough. Pay it forward. Use it. Help yourself. Help others. Hey, today our guest, he says that he's turned his adversity into numerous circumstances as a U.S. Marine, husband, father, and entrepreneur into its purpose. He wants to use his stories, his advice, his leadership to help equip others to persevere with faith, resiliency, and a mission to serve the next generation. Whoa, that's what we need. This next generation is really hurting, boy. We really need to get them fired up and learn what's going on in life. All right, as he said right here when he left off, let's inspire hope together. All right, welcome to the show, Olaolu.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Man, I've been looking forward to this show really for the last several weeks, so I'm excited to dive in today. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, don't worry. You when you get done here, you'll be going, geez, this was a waste of time. Hopefully not.
I doubt it.
Hopefully not. But from that, yeah, I'm glad you're here. AKA Lou. We're going to call you Lou. I won't get everything else up there, but we'll go from here. But I'm excited to hear, and I told you right before we got started, just because you left off, let's inspire hope together. I mean, if you're not one in faith, and I'm assuming you are since you mentioned faith, and not as faith as I really should be all the time, but I'm in faith. But if you weren't, you would look at the world as it's winning. Evil is conquering out there. If you didn't have faith to know that all the good's going to come back and restore and everything. But man, here lately with the assassination, school shootings, all this crap going on. And the bad thing is we get all this negative spunk from our nice media out there, want to thrive and throw it out there. Give us a bunch of good stuff that's happening in the world. Give some examples of that to show what the possibility is out there instead of all they're doing is inspiring some other mentally ill, someone's been bullied in school, and they're inspiring them to go, "Lord, look at all the attention this guy's getting. Well, I'm going to do it." And, it's totally wrong. I wish our media would. I don't know. I got to get off my soapbox because I am going to start here the next month, Lou, that I'm starting my own little news channel, and all it is going to be positive stuff that's going on in the world. All right, one of us is going to do it. And I know I'm not the only one out there that's doing it, but the main media, y'all are ruining us. So, all right, I'm getting off the soapbox there, Lou.
No, you're spot on though, because that's one of the reasons that a show like Professor of Perseverance is so important. It's because like the media is doing their thing to make money. That's all it is. And to be honest with you, if you're watching it for inspiration, you're going to be you're going to be disturbed. You're going to be disappointed and all of the above because they're just not there for that. They're there to make money. So they play off of our fears and our emotions. But that's why it's important. And I love what you're doing. That's why I said I look forward to this show. It's important that we look into it and we do our thing. So I'm looking forward to inspire some others.
And Lou, you did say perseverance. So let me give you a fist bump. All right. And people don't think that this media has been doing this crap work for the last 5 or 10 years. It's been 40 years that I know of that when I first started noticing. And here, Lou, when I first noticed it, I coached a African-American black kid in baseball when he was 10 and 11 years old. He grew up, played on the state championship Well, we were runner up in the that year in football, but he was on the state contending team, football team he got a scholarship to go to West Point.
Mhm.
West Point graduated in the top 2% of the class. I mean, up there in the top 10 right there. And our own newspaper buried his story in the last page to run a story about a woman that was in a car wreck
Hmm.
that didn't get hurt, just
Right.
a car wreck. And it pissed me. I wrote a letter about how, a child, whether black or not, go to West Point and graduate
Mhm.
and in the
Yeah.
top, and y'all bury that story instead of letting that be your lead story to encourage other
Mhm.
children, especially African Americans. Oh, I quit buying that paper since then. So
Yeah, because it's needed, because you see that stuff. And a lot of times I think we forget how much it inspires people, because we've gotten so used to that wreck on the front page and that things that captures your eyes. And we've gotten so used to that being the way we receive information. But in reality, we forget how important it is just to sit back and say, man, that guy, man. I mean, it would inspire when you're telling a story, it inspired me because, going to first of all, getting selected for West Point is
yes,
nothing that you push over. Being able to play for a championship team or a state championship contender is nothing that you can just push over. And then graduating the top of your West Point class as a service member myself, I know that that's not easy. I'll tell you, I didn't do that. I didn't graduate. I didn't go to West Point. I didn't get selected for West Point, and I didn't graduate top of my class at Grambling State University. So that's something that's phenomenal. And that's why I really believe that we as a community, and that's what my platform's all about, as a community, we have to do a better job of bringing these stories to the forefront, because at some point, those stories have to outweigh all the negativity that we see. And until us people decide that it's more important for us to lift each other up than to find ways to tear each other apart, then we just keep feeding the beast and keep paying money to see this stuff. And that's why these media companies are doing this, is because we love it. We're like getting that a little bit of a dopamine fix, but then we're scared because we're fearful because that's they're selling us. So yeah, I love that story, and I love to hear stories just like that.
Tim, right. I am going to feed my little ego though. When he was 11 years old, my brother coached with me, older brother did, and my younger brother on the team, and we went undefeated that year. Remember that, Tim?
Nice.
Right? And we won the city championship on top. So we gave his first championship to him. So, but Tim's a good one. I still keep in contact with him. So,
That's
Dead
amazing.
America, hey, thank you for coming in, buddy. Ed Waters. Hey, everybody else, after you get listening done with Professor of Perseverance podcast, go check out Dead America podcast. Ed Waters, he'll take care of you as well. All right, Ed, thank you for coming in. He says, get fired up. All right, we're going to get fired up. Lou's going to
Oh
get us
man,
going here now. All
I'm
right,
glad
I'm
he
going
said
to shut up now. I took enough time. Lou, hit us with your best shot, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much again for having me. And I am fired up. I'm glad you said that, because I love what we do. I love the idea behind inspiring young people. And that's what Parent Child Connect. I founded this organization in order to start building a community around children, because what I realized is that we are allowing our children to be influenced by things that we're not even paying attention to. We've already talked about the media, but our children have a disadvantage, in my opinion, that even I didn't see when I was growing up, and I was born in 1990. But I didn't have my first cell phone, not an actual smartphone, until like college, or maybe like late high school. Right? I mean, I had a little phone that I think I could play Snake on, and every time I sent a text message, it cost 10 cents. So I barely even text. Right? And I definitely wasn't getting media, news, social media wasn't on my phone or anything like that. So these are challenges my children have grown up with that a lot of people haven't. So everything that I'm talking about today and I'm going to talk about is all about finding ways to build the community of leaders who are going to come together and be the coach like you're talking about, and take that young man who may not have any direction, who knows children's stories. I've come in contact with some phenomenal, and I've come into contact with some really sad stories when I'm working with children. And quite frankly, I believe that the community at large can just surround these children and really be on their side to help influence them and make them better. So I really believe that's what we're talking about today. So I'm excited to talk about some of the things, because I know one of the things you talk about here is adversity. And that's really one of the the hardest things about growing up, and the reason I wanted to do something when I got older, because I had one of the biggest things I had to overcome were my insecurities, right? So I was a very insecure child. Number one, my name was Olaolu Ogunyemi, and I was in Ruston, Louisiana. And I tell you, in case you didn't know, that's not a name from Ruston, Louisiana, and neither did people even attempt to pronounce it correctly, right? So I already felt a little bit of an outcast just by being born, right? And then I had all these other things that were happening in my life, and I just felt like I just didn't fit in. And so what do? I do what everybody else does to fit in. I start clowning and start acting out. And the crowd I was running with, unfortunately, those guys, every last one of them are either in the penitentiary system or they're out of it, and they've just been this revolving door their entire lives. And therein lies the issue. Because I'll pause for a second after this. What I recognized is that when I got in trouble at school, my dad and mom were home. And my teachers would say, "We know you know better than that. And don't make me call your dad." That's what they'll tell me. But if my buddy got in trouble, most cases, they would just say, "Hey, go to the back of the classroom." And as a young child, I didn't think about it. I didn't care about it really. We're just hanging out. We're having a good time. But as I got older and I started looking back at those moments, I'm like, wow, man. So the difference in my life was my parents were there for me. And unfortunately, in this case, this young man's father was in prison and his mother's working 3 or 4 jobs. So they didn't even bother calling home. And so their best thing to do is just get him out of the way, pass him. And when he gets in real bad trouble, kick him out of school. And I was like, man, that just can't be the right answer, because there was so much potential there, but now it's lost. It's forever going to be lost in a system. And so that's really what I think about when I'm talking about overcoming adversity and how it shaped who I am today.
I remember growing up, you mentioned the old thing, don't make me have to call you daddy. Okay. Because I remember when I grew up, and I don't have any children. And so I'm just assuming what I've witnessed, that apparently discipline is not as granted as much at home, other than I'll take your gaming away from you for an hour, whatever it is. But my dad growing up, he told me, you ever got in trouble, I me should better be the first one to tell him, because if he finds out from a second source, it'd be double worse. And so
Right.
I remember one time I got in trouble, and he didn't get off work till 4:30, get home by 4:30. And I was sitting on the front porch at 3 o'clock, got out of school. I'm sitting out at on the front porch at 3 o'clock to make sure I'd be the first one to tell him, you know. And so I sat there for an hour and a half, knowing he didn't get there to 4:30, but I want to make sure I was going to be the first one. So,
Yeah,
and,
what that creates though, and I think the difference in what I've seen is that there's no breakage in the leadership from adults, right? So the reason that he told you that, and you knew that it was going to happen, is that you knew that good and well, if he was going to find out, somebody was going to tell him, period. Right. So there wasn't this breakdown in communication that happens now, where there's like, for a while, and I have to give credit to the school system here in Stafford, Virginia, because they're very communicative. They want us involved in the children's lives, and that's all ages. Because I have children, I have a child in first grade, and I have a child in sophomore year in high school, and I have one in between in sixth grade. And all of these schools here have been very communicative and want us involved. But in times past, and the other couple of states I've lived in, it's almost been this big disconnect where if the child does something at school, it's like, well, the teacher's going to deal with it. And then once they're done with them, they sort of brush their hands and they go back home. And then you do your own thing at home. And oh, yeah, it better not be something that we disagree with, because we may send CPS or the police over to your house. And this is a real story. I'm not making this up.
yeah.
And so these are things that there's a disconnect in our community right now, and to where adults are not on the same page. And in between, we have our children who they're just trying to figure out life. So who are they learning from? And that gap between, when I send them to school and I don't care about them anymore, or they send them home and they don't really worry about them anymore, there's a gap there. Somebody has to be raising these children. And that's the problem. So to your point, the reason that was effective, and my dad had the same thing, the reason it's effective is because he knew the teachers were going to call him. They were going to tell him. And so I better be able to tell him not even just tell him first, but I better be able to give him a real good explanation as to why I was doing what I was doing.
exactly.
Or else,
Be
right?
accountable for what you did. Don't lie and make it worse. Tell them what I did. I know it was wrong, but I just got caught up in the moment. Yeah. So I tell you,
Oh,
I
yeah.
used to be a school teacher, and Did it about 12, 15 years. And first year wore me out because I had a couple of jokers always talking and doing something, joking around, doing whatever. And I mean, I'm just boom, boom, boom. What are you doing? Sit down, quit that. End of the day, I got high blood pressure and stuff. Finally, it hit me one day. Finally, and this is when I changed my teaching with that. At least the discipline part. But it finally hit me. That kid probably overslept before he come to school. So mom and dad's already yelled at him for oversleeping. Now he's late getting up, rushing to get his breakfast in. Now he's late getting to the bus. Now the bus driver's yelling at him because you done slowed me down again. Then he gets into the school and, most people, they're sitting in the gym till it's ready to go to your first class. And so probably whoever's monitoring the gym is probably already yelled at him too. And I go, by the time they get to me, they're immune to this yelling. They're just going, all right, just another one. So now what I started doing is they goof up like that. I mean, like the very first day of school, I already heard about this one. And I hate when teachers tell you what's coming up because now I'm getting my mind already adjusted for that. I hated that. But they talking about this one girl, first day, we're just registering. And here she is, just blah, 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 I'm talking. And I took half my desk and slung its stuff on the floor and gave her by her name. You will move right up here. You're going to share this desk. Of course, it's a great example for the other kids, to know that I'm not taking anything. You get up here. But what I've learned from that being is now I can go, hey, what's going on with your life? How things happening? How's mom and dad doing? And you're finding out why things are going on like this. And they're talking to you. Then it's building up that trust. Hey, because I'm in a wheelchair. So I go, hey, I can't write on the board. Go write this on the board. Now, while you're back there, don't goof around with your friends. Write this, come on back, and then use the old, don't disappoint me. And then they come back proud they did everything right. And then after, 2 weeks, all right, I'm giving you an opportunity to go back here with your friends. I want you to have a good school year like everybody else. But that's how I ended up doing it, building this trust with them, with the harder kids, whatever, trouble kids. But when you find out what's going on with them, now you have a chance to make a difference in their life.
No, that's spot on. And I'm glad you used that example because one of the things that we always forget as adults, as parents, as coaches, or whoever, we forget that connection piece because we really want to inspire them. We want to pour into them. Like if we're coaching them, which I love sports, don't get me wrong, but if we're coaching them, the first thing we want to do is just pour into them. Like, here's all the stuff you need to do, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes we just forget that first thing, and that's that connection. Because in order for you to use that, hey, I'm disappointed in you, there has to be a connection there first. Because if you have no connection, you tell them you're disappointed, they'll be like, okay, that means nothing to me, right? But I've seen the transformation that happens in these children's lives when they have the ability to feel that connection from adult and know that somebody, number one, actually cares about them, and number two, has their best interest at heart. And that's really what you're talking about there, is providing a different style of leadership from what they've probably become numb to, especially if they get yelled at. To your point, they get yelled at all the time, then they probably are numb to it. I mean, as a child, as growing up and playing sports, my coach knew that he couldn't. My coaches knew that if they yelled at me, it probably wasn't going to do anything. But man, if they put me on that bench, especially at the very end, that sent a clear message to me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember I coached our girls basketball team, and let me see over here, see a basketball on the wall. We won the state championship, and someone had one time was going, I want to be a starter. Why ain't I starting? Da da da. And someone brought it to my attention. Another coach did. He says, "Yeah, I understand the wanting to start, but I think I'd rather want to be in the end of the game when it counted." Yeah. Like you just said, they set you on the bench before the game's over. He says, I think I would be arguing more. I'd rather be out there when the game counted, and I was going, I never thought of that. Yeah. So. Yeah.
No, it sent a clear message. Anytime he did that, it was a clear message that he was sending me. And it was, hey, you're not putting forth the effort to finish this game out. And I'm like, wow, that's an effective way to do it. But he knew me. He knew me well enough to be able to do that. And he used that same kind of example with other players. But he didn't use Like some players he puts on the edge of the bench, they can fold their arms, they don't care. But for me, he knew that was going to work. And for others, maybe he did have to yell. Maybe for another, he knew he had to sit there and draw the play out in very small, like Barney style. But there's just understanding how you need to adapt to lead children. That's not mean to make them. When I always tell people, you be flexible, not malleable, which means you're not telling the children that you're going to, be their best friends or do whatever they want. But you are adapting yourself, your leadership style to what they need.
Yeah, my thing is like you. I'm hurting more if you don't use me when I'm playing. Okay. Because I had a coach one time and my hair, I would have it long, but I kept it groomed and stuff. Well, he was one of them, had to have the short haircut. And so he told me to get a haircut. This is before the season started in practice. And I ignored him. So finally he did the old stand right here. Everybody else is going to run for you. And of course, everybody's mad at me because I'm not getting a haircut. And I'm going, that didn't bother me a bit. Now, you don't let me start in the next game, I'm not playing. That makes a difference because then I would get my hair cut, but making him run instead of me, hey, that just gives me more time, more energy to do what I want after practice. So I didn't say that to the coach, but that was my mindset.
Right.
Everybody else is mad at me for not getting a haircut. And I said, I ain't cut it tomorrow. So y'all might as well get ready to run again tomorrow. But again, if he threatened not to let me play, then I would get a cut. So that was me. So all right,
okay, sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say another time with one of my students. I remember, I taught 7th grade science. So, but I remember seeing him in high school, and I went to go watch a basketball game, and he came up and apologized for where he was and gave me a big hug and thanked me for not giving up on him. And that just broke my heart when he said that. And the biggest thing, all I told him, and I've told others I've seen after they graduate, we're all different. And sometimes it takes a little while to grow and mature. You were just that 7th grade goofball that needed some attention for whatever reason. But now you're grown adult, you're married, children, now you know what you need to do. I said, but and then you don't owe me an apology. That was just, we all mature and grow up at different rates. So
no, that's a perfect way to segue, because I was thinking about when I had my mohawk. Now I know I have a low cut now.
Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah,
my
I had
brother
a mohawk.
used to get the old ball. You're a little younger than us. My brother used to get the old Brian Bosworth haircut. That mohawk, and it's standing 3 inches up, while he's playing, and coloring it blonde with the Oklahoma Sooner colors on the side. And my brother used to do that. He loved Brian Bosworth. So go ahead, jumping in with that mohawk. It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah, so I did it. The funny thing is, when I did it almost out of spite, because we were in uniforms, right? So in my high school, we had to wear uniforms, and the student book or the handbook said something like, it can't be eccentric, right? So I was like, okay, well, I'm just getting a normal haircut, and over time, I just kept getting higher and higher and higher until finally it was technically in a mohawk style, but it didn't. You couldn't really tell because I would like curl it up, and make it look like it was almost like a normal haircut. And I could see the assistant principal, his name was Coach Johnson. He's probably like 6'6", 6'7", and he'll just stare. Because I did everything to test the yearbook, or excuse me, the handbook. Right. And then one track meet, I take my mohawk and I take some, it wasn't mousse, but it was like the Axe, like staying gel. And I took it and stuck it straight up like a spike on my head. And I went to a track meet to do it. And my dad sees me out there. And oh my gosh, he's just sitting there with his hand in his head, just like, what is my son doing? And my dad came from Nigeria. So just for a little context, you don't come all the way, those thousands of miles, get your college education, work hard to get a job, and to provide this for your children. And then you got a son who's out there looking like this, like looking how I was looking, which it looked ridiculous. I have to say that. At first, I thought it was cool. It did give me attention, technically, quote unquote. But I looked cool, right? But anyway, I'm out here doing this thing. And I remember my dad and Coach Johnson would always talk to me about this mohawk. Oh, you need to, I think it's out of regulations. Or Coach Johnson would say something like that. My dad would say something, why are you looking like that? Why don't you cut your hair? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like in one ear, out the other. Until one day, my dad decided, he's like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's exactly how you approach the conversation. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I go down this list of things. And the only thing he asked me after that is, do you know anybody who looks like that, that's in those jobs. And that day I went and cut my hair. Why? Because that meant something to me, right? It was something that
Mm-hmm.
resonated with me, like, oh, well, I am not representing the guy who I want to be in the future. And that was really my thing. I really wanted to be, at the time, I was like, I'll be a CEO or whatever else I said I was going to be at that point. I was like, I really want to do this. I want to be in the Marine. I want to be an officer in the Marine Corps. And here I am running around with a spiked up mohawk on the top of my head like a feather. And I'm doing all these crazy things, right? And when he told me that and he reached me in that way, I still talk about it today. And to be honest with you, when I asked him, and he will never remember. I've talked to him about this multiple times, and he doesn't even remember talking about that. But that just shows
Okay.
that how much that you stay persistent and you never give up. No matter how much you think they're not listening. Because I said it was going in one and out the other. I was listening to him. I heard the
It's
lecture.
planting those seeds.
Yeah, they're planting the seeds. And that when he came with that different angle, that different approach, it worked. And this is just a small example. It's a funny example, but imagine how many times we do that throughout life. I mean, that young man that you're talking about 7th grade all the way years later, right? And so imagine how many times we plant those seeds and we don't realize how important it is. Maybe the child moves and you never see him again. But that shouldn't be our concern. Really, our concern, I think, should be planting those seeds and saying, hey, when you see them acting out, perhaps just go to them and say, hey, man, I know you're better than that. Yeah, you're better than that.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you're rehearsing those things in their head. They may immediately reject it. Now, you don't know who I am. You don't know nothing about me. I've had that happen. And then I've seen them later on in the future and how they react in the future. And it's like, man, that's amazing. It's amazing to see how their lives have turned around. And perhaps it was because of the seed I planted, or maybe not. Who knows? But at least I
Well,
try my best to
it
be
was a
part of the
seed you
solution.
planted, then other people behind you watered it correctly,
That's right.
not the non-passive negative way. They watered it correctly. So yeah, it's a part of the system with it. Yeah. So I remember this one kid. Man, I'm glad we're talking today about kids. I remember this one kid. I only saw him that one year in 7th grade. He was one of them that was involved in a gang. And you know how these kids want to sag, their pants sagging, and in school, you can't sag. It's one of our rules. And of course, I'm one of them. It's no sagging. Well, he comes into class one day and he's right when the bell rings, sagging. And I went and got me some nice red suspenders. And I forgot the guy's name. All right, buddy. I said, I've written you up and written you up. Other teachers written you. That didn't done anything. So I'm tired of writing papers. All right. While you're in my classroom, you're going to wear these red suspenders and you're going to wear them to keep your pants up like that. And then all of a sudden he was point blank. He said, Coach, if I do that, I'll be kicked out of school. I said, what? He said, somebody's going to make fun of me and I'm going to beat them up and I'll get kicked out. And I go, yeah, we don't want you kicked out of school. But it made me think differently then because he was involved in a gang. And sure enough, I'm sure he's got enough on his plate, people making fun of him or whatever else. And I said, I'll tell you what, man, here's what we're going to do. I'll make a deal with you. When you take that first step in my room, your pants are up. Your first step out in the hallway, if you want to sag, I'm not saying a word to you. If the other teachers don't say anything, more power to you. I said, I'll never say a word. But once you come in, you put them up in here. And then I did the old, I'm going to respect you. You respect me. And ever since then, first step in, maybe sometime 3 steps in, but he would pull them up. And then when he went out in the hallway, I'm high-fiving him. Hey, have a great day, everything, and but I never saw him after that 1 year. So I don't know whatever happened, whatever he went to and got in. I just hope the best for him. But he made me think differently when he says, if you make me put them on, I'll get kicked out of here because someone's going to make fun of me and I'm going to get in a fight. And so it made me think then too. So he's got a lot more on his plate than daggum pants being up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So a lot of times, you talked about it earlier, understanding their backgrounds, understanding where people come from and why they act the way they act. And some of these guys, the only influence they have is some guy who's slightly older than them. who's teaching them how to be in some gang, right? And I've seen this happen in my hometown. I've seen it happen around the United States when I'm moving. And quite honestly, it's one of the most sad things to see. It's sad because they only get they're getting validation for all those insecurities, all those gaps and things in their lives, or perhaps even there's economic things that are happening in their lives to where they have to help pay the bills, keep the lights on, have food on the table, and so on and so forth. So in some ways, it's almost encouraged, right? And these are things that once you understand that environment, and it becomes a more holistic approach from all of us. That includes guys who have been out in the streets. We all have to like come together and like have a conversation, because what I'm recognizing, even my hometown, I talked to some guys who spent their entire lives out in the street. And once you get to a certain level, usually by the time you're like 23, right, you have reputation, you have respect. But now these guys have no respect whatsoever. A lot of these young guys are just, they're violent for violence sake. They're trying to really earn their own reputation, but their reputation is not respect from others. It's a reputation in violence, and knowing that I will go a step further than you if you decide to start going in that direction. And I think that's where we have to start working and try to progress ourselves to realize that there is a problem, and we're going to lose those preteens, especially if we don't allow ourselves to collaborate with people that who we may not agree with their lifestyle previously, but collaborate with them, work with them, because our children are more important than some disagreements that we may have.
Amen, Lou. The children today, with all these technology, their iPads, their gaming, their phone, they have lost the art of talking and communicating with each other, and to respect differences. All right, I don't agree with you, but hey, more power to you. This is my beliefs, but instead, like you said, they want to jump into violence. You don't agree with me? Well, you're the one that, no, you don't have to get into all that. Agree to disagree, respect each other, and then you can still be friends. You just don't have to do everything that they're doing. So, they have definitely. You mentioned you hit the nail on the head with that one. That the lack of communication skills and understand just no respect. So we're definitely losing in that war. They're going to have to change something. I don't know what, but something's got to be changed.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what it's all about. It's finding ways. If you see somebody, again, just speaking to their lives, and find a way to say that, hey, man, do you see a difference if you're having a conversation? Let's say you go to a barbershop or you're out at the store and you're just having a conversation, and you notice that you both look at the same problem, and you notice there's a problem, and you want to do something. Then work together to fix it. Work together to work it out. Because I don't ascribe to the belief that we're as divided as the media may lead us to believe. I just don't believe it. I think that they make their money the way they make it, but we're not as divided as people like to make us think. I think there are some people who go off the reservation, and I believe that's the minority. But for the most part, I think we're all out here trying to make the world a better place. And so if you see somebody else trying to do that, there's nothing that stops you from walking up to them and asking, hey, how do we do this together? I do this. Here's my profession, or here's what I do well. What do you do well? And they say they do well. Now you guys join efforts, and guess what? You guys can make that much more of a difference, especially dealing with the children.
We can all be superheroes working together on the same team. So
that's right.
Hey, we're doing good here. My man, Dad America, he's the OG on podcasting. He started before I did. And he said, very good talk today. All right. Thank you, Ed. Hey, again, people, after you finish your Professor of Perseverance podcast, move over to Dad America. Let Ed get you all fired up as well. So, all right, Lou, well, I appreciate that. This has been a good talk. But we've neglected to mention your author. You've been an author. So here is one of his children's book. I like the title, Billy's Diaper. Billy Diapers, Time to Shine. So I like the title there. The Diapers, Time to Shine. So you've got several other children's books.
Yes, sir.
Written, and you're working on a leadership book.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I love the children's book series. It's the Parent-Child Connect series. It's my attempt to provide resources for parents and adults to sit down with children and create teachable and memorable experiences. Now, my next book is called Lead Last. And really, the purpose of that book is it's for leadership. It's for leaders who are aspiring to like your mid manager, so 10 to 15 years in. It's just lessons I've learned, plus experiences and research that I've done to help you become an effective leader and leave a legacy in the organization that you're leading. Now, lead last very quickly has two points is what I'm getting at. It's a double entendre. First, in order for us to be effective leaders and leave a legacy, like I alluded to, there's things that we have to do. And that means we have to get to know ourselves and get to know those who are leading before we can lead. So lead last. And then secondly, we want to create an environment that makes people thrive. And that means that we're going to leave a lasting impact on the organization that we're in. And then the bonus, I like to have a bonus, why I chose lead last as a title. And so the last thing is, it's because we want to make sure that we're doing things, we're putting people before ourselves. So we're no longer just coming in a room and trying to be the loudest ones. We're providing resources to uplift people and push them forward, which means that we're literally going to be behind some people, maybe pushing them to motivate them, or maybe underneath people to uplift them. And so therefore, we are leading last. So that's the book. It's coming out soon. I'm working with Amplify Publishing Group to publish a book, and I'm very excited. Hopefully in the spring is when it's supposed to come out, spring 2026. So I'm just very excited. I'm looking forward to publishing, but I appreciate you for mentioning those books.
Well, you need to get back with me before spring gets here and give us a month or 2 months warning to help push that book for you. So
Absolutely. I
get back
appreciate you.
with me. Yeah. So, all right, Lou, hey, I appreciate you being on here. Tell everybody your social media, how they can get a hold of you, anything else you got going on.
Yes, sir. So in social media, you use my first name, last name. And if you can't spell it, try spelling this: parent-child-connect.com. That's the best way to find me. You'll be able to find all my books, my resources, my blog. You'll find all my social media, everything there. You can even reach out via the contact form. So again, that's parent-child-connect.com.
There we go. And I'll put that in the show notes to make it a little easier on everybody. All right, Lou, hey, we know people are hurting and struggling today. If you can leave us with a positive message, that'd be a blessing.
Yes, sir. The biggest thing I can say is that you can make a difference in your life and the lives of folks around you. And we've already talked about it, but I want to just make sure I emphasize that if you plant a seed, just plant one seed in somebody's life today, it makes you feel better. It's going to make sure you enhance your life. And most importantly, it's going to make the world a little bit better than it was before you got here. So plant that seed. You're making a huge difference in your life. And thank you for tuning in.
And again, you don't have to try to change the whole world, even though there's other people that have tried and doing their thing. But if you can just make a difference in your little world, and then the old ripple effect, and then we'll get around the world then. So, all right, Lou, man, you've been a blessing to me, an inspiration to me. So, but I want to leave you with one last thing. Thank you for your U.S. being a Marine. Thank you, because it's people like you, people before you, the people that's passed away, and the future that's come, as why my life being in a wheelchair, I'm able to live like I can. It's not been that long ago with old World War II stuff going on, and they're killing all the disabled people because we're not the greatest. And so, yeah. So because of you and others, and before you and one's coming, have made it where I can do this and have a good life. So I appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right, everybody else. So, all right, Dad America, you take care. Appreciate you coming in. Everybody else, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.